After our spiritual awakening, things begin to change inside of ourselves, don't they? But we can often find ourselves dipping back into old ways of being and old ways of thinking. So after a spiritual awakening, how can I truly live what I now know? Let's talk about that. So perhaps you've had a spiritual awakening, or you've had a big blast of Shakti in the system. Shakti just means energy or power. And perhaps maybe we've started to dip back into old ways of being, old ways of thinking that we don't quite prefer. So after that awakening experience, how can I then live what I've just learned from an experience, or over a gradual awakening over a period of time? Well, awakening is not on the mental level. Okay, yes, it might change your thinking, and it will certainly change your perspective and understanding of life and the way that you relate to it. But after a while, that's sort of, in a way, it's like looking through a lens. And when you kind of turn the aperture, I don't know if that's really the words that photographers use, but sometimes you look through the lens and it's really, really clear, and then you turn the aperture and it goes all blurry, but you can still see through it, but barely. This is like the experience of an awakening experience. You have an experience, that's like the lens being very cleanly seen through, but after a little bit of time, that lens closes shut a little bit and things become a little bit blurry. And we have to, in a way, retrain ourselves into the complete visceral experience of what it is that we previously learned because of that awakening. Now, one great way to do this, and it's the best support system I have ever seen in my life, is sadhana. Sadhana just means your daily spiritual practice to bring about the highest aliveness of energy in the system. When you've got so much energy in the system, it's a lot easier, and you are well lubricated in a way to move through life in a joyous way. And as well, because you've cultivated that inner freedom by doing your practices, the outside world changes too. I mean, look, I'm proof of it, but I'm not the only one. There's thousands of people doing this. So if you're interested, you can sign up down below for the Freedom Blueprint. This is for that person that wants to take the next step on their journey. Perhaps they've been doing this path without much structure and without somebody to guide them that's been through it, or that's perhaps a little bit further on the path than you. And so if you want somebody who's qualified to take you through the yogic path, then by all means sign up for the Freedom Blueprint down below. You can apply. The course itself isn't free though, but the application form is. So, when you go out into nature and you get that wonderful blessed feeling as nature's soothing energies rip raw through your system and nourish your beingness. Well, how can I live what I now know? Well, you go out into nature, you feel that feeling, and then you take that feeling out into the normal world. Whilst interacting with people, you keep that cup filled up as you walk through life, isn't it? Because you don't want to spill any of that nature nurtured sensitivity feeling. And yes, some people might be mean at some point, because humans aren't perfect, are they? We recognize this. And so what do we do then? Well, we hold on to our filled up cup. We hold on to that nature feeling inside of ourselves, regardless of the egoic cost. To be able to do this though, we really need to get down the reason why we want to, in a way, live this path. If the reason is anything other than I want to feel good, it's likely that we won't be able to do this. Now, we've been conditioned, and perhaps we could even say over lifetimes, we've been conditioned, isn't it, to believe certain negative beliefs about ourselves that are passed down from our parents and their parents, etc. And so, in a way, the odds are stacked against us slightly, but of course, with a consistent practice of sadhana, our energy body changes, and over a period of a little bit of time, things can really, really shift for us, isn't it? So, how can I hold on to that nature feeling when somebody's being mean to me? Because it will flare up some of those limiting beliefs, won't it, inside? And so it may not be quite, maybe we say, Jamie, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. And this is why we say at any cost, at any personal egoic cost. Because the ego, what is it? It's an opinion maker. It's a identity. It's a misery manufacturing machine in the mind, isn't it? And quite frankly, I can't use the word I want to say because then I won't be able to post it to Facebook. But it's a little moany one, isn't it? And so, do we gain anything from it? Well, in essence, we do gain something from the ego, and that's protection. But because there's no saber-toothed tigers hanging around in the world anymore, we don't necessarily really need that protection so much. And so now, because we've got all of our identity in it, we see everything as a threat, isn't it? And so we have to, in a way, bring that nurturing nature energy to the ego. Absorb it in that feeling state of nature as I go about life. Really, it's not about my relationship with other people, is it? It's about my relationship with my nature feeling. And then what that relationship is to the ego. Can that nature win over? Can that feeling encompass the ego and allow the ego to be soothed in a way? Perhaps, we don't want to reject the ego at all. We want to acknowledge it. We can just say, thank you. I used to give my ego a name, and again, I can't say it on here. It used to be Bull. And so I'd say, thank you, Bull, for your opinion, but I'm going my way. I thought it was the perfect name because all of the stuff that comes up is bull, isn't it? And so can we stay in that nature feeling as the bull in the mind plays itself out? We just give so much attention to it, isn't it? Because we believe it's me, because it uses the word me. It's using our name. And therefore when we act out, we get the consequence of it, isn't it? And so can we nurture with our nature feeling that sense of identity in the mind as it relates or is crushed by somebody on the outside? Not saying that will happen. It's very unlikely that you'll be crushed from somebody on the outside. I don't mean physically, I just mean emotionally, mentally. But some people are that way, aren't they? And so please remember, this is just their karma, isn't it? If they're that type of person, or they're displaying that type of tendency, it says everything about them and nothing about me. It only says something about me if I react unconsciously. If I react unconsciously, not from my nature feeling, but from my egoic sense, then what it says about me is that I'm insecure in relation, or ego is insecure in relationship to that thing that they just said. Our karma then is tied. But in that nature feeling, are we insecure? Never, is it? So let's cultivate that nature feeling and take it out into the world, and then we might be strong enough at some point to really see what's going on, to see people's karma for what it is and see that it has no relationship to me, and then we can take that filled up cup and start pouring it out. Want a drink? They say something nasty? Oh, you look thirsty. Here you go, with a smile on our face. If you begin to do that, in most cases you'll find it will completely defuse the situation too. I'm not saying literally start watering people. You understand the idea, the concept that I'm bringing up here, right? We can give something back from our filled up cup. Why? Because we're the strong ones, isn't it? And even what I just said there may have come from an identity, because it's not us, it's our nature that's strong, isn't it? We are not the strong ones. Nature is strong. It's us. And so can we cultivate or allow in that nature feeling more and more and live through that after an awakening experience? This is how we begin to live what we now know. Here's to that, and here's to your authentic journey. Namaste.